vice president in the dark for almost 2 weeks.
He's doing the job. You know, he was just doing his job. The thing is, he didn't tell our vice president properly, and then he said he didn't remember. So either way, it wasn't very satisfactory to me.
There's been a report out that 48 bomb threats have been made against Jewish centers all across the country in the last couple of weeks. There are people who are committing anti-Semitic acts or threatening to.
You see, he said he was going to ask a very simple, easy question. And it's not. It's not. Not a simple question, not a fair question. Okay, sit down. I understand the rest of your question. Racism. The least racist person. In fact, we did very well relative to other people running as a Republican. Quiet, quiet, quiet.
Those were two reporters getting the Trump treatment, I guess you could say, today. Mara Liasson is the national political correspondent for NPR. Jake Turx is a reporter for Omni, an Orthodox Jewish news magazine. How do they feel after their close encounter with the force of nature that is this president? They both join us live right now. Mara, I want to start with you because boys and girls out there who want to be reporters someday, I sometimes made the mistake as a White House correspondent of doing a 3- or 4-part question to show how many different things I wanted to challenge the president on. And then presidents of either parties, they say, I'm going to pick one out of the 4, and then I'm going to duck all the rest. You basically just said, did you fire Flynn?
Yeah.
And it forced him to answer it. And he basically said, I did.
Yeah, he did. And the reason I answered it is because the day before, when somebody asked about Flynn, he talked about how Flynn was so badly treated by the media. But the day before that, Sean Spicer had told us he'd fired Flynn. So
can't trust him anymore.
Yeah, right.
I want to ask you, Jake Turx, it seems like you had a relationship with the president that predated his presidency back in New York. Is that right?
Somewhat. It was a relationship that I've had as a correspondent covering him, and we covered all the candidates, but I got a lot of requests specifically to cover the Trump campaign, especially because of his longtime close connections with the Orthodox Jewish community, on top of everything else that was going on.
An important question he was asked yesterday as well when he took questions with the Prime Minister of Israel, who had his back. And when he was pressed, Donald Trump, about whether or not he's been anti-Semitic, people around him have said or done anything anti-Semitic, he got backing from Prime Minister Netanyahu, which I thought was important for his critics to hear. Did you feel like he answered your question today?
So I actually want to address what your question was rather than the answer you're trying to get me to say.
Well, I'm actually not. I actually have an open mind. I really don't know what you're going to say. I'm not trying to get you to say anything.
I've worked with the president, with his people, throughout the campaign, throughout the transition, and so many times I've seen some of our colleagues in the media describe certain events as in the way it relates to the Jewish community in a certain light that no one in our community saw it that way, and there were certain acts that were described as anti-Semitic, or certain people described as anti-Semitic, and the people in our community who know these people personally said, that's not true. Why are people who aren't Jewish deciding what is considered anti-Semitism? The president's relationship with the Jewish community, I've only seen it firsthand for the last 2 years, but he's done an unprecedented amount of outreach with the Orthodox Jewish community, and so we understand why this is so hurtful for him, to see himself being called an anti-Semite when you don't believe it. No, not just I don't believe it. I've seen him firsthand. I mean, my
point is, you feel it's unfair.
It is very unfair what's been done to him, and I understand why he's so defensive. And I'm with him when it comes to being outraged about him being charged with this anti-Semitism.
Mara, we hear some of our colleagues in the media tonight, sort of shouting from the rooftops that nothing short of our democracy is at stake. I wonder, though, if you look at it from a different sense, what puts our democracy more at stake? Having a tense relationship, president and press, sharp questions, but a president who pushes back, or some of the fawning coverage, let's be honest, when President Obama over the last 8 years got questions like, what enchanted you about the first 100 days? That hardly was healthy.
Look, I think that this whole period is a test of our democratic institutions. And guess what happened today? We saw the press, act like it should, and the president treat us like he should. He took questions for 80 minutes. He did not only call on friendly reporters. He called on a wide range of people. He got tough questions.
24 hours ago, the storyline, the narrative was he's afraid to go beyond the Daily Caller.
Well, actually, if he had continued with the strategy that he's used at the 2-and-2 press conferences forever, I think that would have been a fair charge, because that's what he was doing. This was his first full-fledged press conference as president. And he did it in the traditional way, even though he excoriated us and called us dishonest. He did answer questions, and there was a lot we learned. It was like the president was on the couch. I felt it was a display of a human being with all of his frustrations, even some charm, some humor, a lot of grievance. I think we learned a lot.
I've been in that room before, and I've been on the receiving end of withering attack or.
But you've always had a better seat, though.
Oh, all right. Well, okay, thanks. And President Obama, for example, once charged unfairly that I was a campaign spokesman for Mitt Romney, and that is a way to try to throw you off your game. You had the president, we played it, stop talking, sit down. Yeah. Did you feel, I mean, it's a nerve-wracking thing, you're on live television all around the world. How did you feel in that moment, and did you feel, were you angry that he told you to sit down?
I'm going to say something that's going to surprise you, and I'm sure going to surprise a lot of your viewers, but I was actually very, very hopeful, because it shows a president who is so committed against this problem of anti-Semitism that it bothers him on a personal level, on a deep personal level. And it makes me very hopeful that he will work together with the community. So,
bottom line for you is he pushed back hard, and he said what he needed to say. Jake Turx, Mara Lyson, appreciate your insights.